Good morning, it's Karen, and we're going to look at every book that I rated 5 stars last year. In 2023, I read 79, 80 books, and out of those, I've had a number of 5-star reads, and I want to share them with you today, but I had so many that I decided to pair them up with each other. I created some sort of small reason why I paired them together. Some of the reasons are obvious, and then other reasons are sort of just my own linking. The first 2 books that I'm going to pair together is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Death of an Author. Both of these I've linked together as the sort of discussion of creator in a space in technology. For Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, this one is about 2 people that meet up together and end up creating a worldwide sensation of a video game. And it's all about their creative journey together and when they hit walls of creativity and where they get their creativity from and where's their inspiration. And there's a lot of delving into that aspect. In The Death of an Author, it's a little more meta because this one was a book that was mostly like 90% written by AI. The author who used the tools used it as the opportunity to show that AI shouldn't be too scary if we use it in the correct way. He argued that for the creative types that this is a great tool to use and that it won't be the death of creativity because as long as there's humans, there will be many angles to explore. The next 2 I put together were I Capture the Castle and Station 11. Both of these were rereads for me. Both of them are absolute all-time favorites. I Capture the Castle is a diary entry by this woman who's on the verge of adulthood. She's 17 or 18. And her family lives in this crumbling castle, and the I Capture the Castle is her describing events that happen at the castle. And when a rich family shows up to befriend them, it's all about the interactions between that family and her family and shenanigans, and it's romantic, and it's very bucolic and idyllic in its writing, but it's also about a woman or a girl becoming a woman and realizing the world isn't always as she sees it. Station 11, on the other hand, it is a reread, so that's how I'm relating them, but this one is very different. It still gives me that same nostalgic feel, but I love how Emily St. John Mandel just creates these stories where characters weave and they have very tentative relations with each other. So like this person meets this person and then this person over here also meets that third person. So we get the complexity of human life and people just knowing each other in a landscape where the world ended because of a pandemic. So this one's a top favorite reread for me. The next 2 that I put together are Ascension and The Family Game. And I put these 2 together because these are the types of books where you just go with the flow. You just say, all right, you're taking me on a wild ride and I will go with you. These are ones that if you don't stop and think about them, like, they're fine. Ascension is about this mountain that appears in the middle of nowhere, and there is a task force of the best top scientists of the world that are brought together to go and investigate it, and it's a bit timey-wimey, and the best way that I describe it is if you've ever seen Doctor Who, it's like a Doctor Who episode. It plays around with time. There are monsters. There are dimensions and a little bit of sciencey talk, and it's just wild. The Family Game is another one where it was just wild, and I said, take me with you. There was something about it that brought me in and made me just love it. This is about a woman who gets engaged to a man. She, in her own right, is a successful author, and she gets engaged to a man who's part of this very notorious family that is very rich, and she gets introduced to them, and they play games, and these games are a little iffy, to say the least. They play with your mind. They're psychological. They're a bit messed up, and we just we go with them. The next two that I have are actually part of a series, and that's the Treacherous Curse and A Dangerous Collaboration. This is the Veronica Speedwell series, and these two were 5 stars for me. And the first one, the Treacherous Curse, was about Egyptology, finding an Egyptian mummy, and all of the things that go with the tomb. And I'm a big fan of Egyptology and the craze that kind of happened between like the 1850s and the 1930s. It's just one of my favorite things to read about. The second one, no, it's the fourth one in the series, A Dangerous Collaboration, was set in Cornwall, another favorite setting of mine. And it had all those gothic feels of an old castle with secret passageways and just a lot of romantic angst. So those were both 5 stars for me. These next two are a little bit more difficult to explain, and that is the Night Masquerade, the 3rd book in the Binti series, and the Halloween Tree. Hear me out. Both of these are about questioning cultural traditions. So the Night Masquerade, I don't want to get too much into it because the first 2 books are just so good, but there is a tradition that happens on Binti's homeland, and it kind of creates a bit of it stirs up a lot of problems when she is there. And I'm not going to go too much into that. But the Halloween Tree, I think I've likened this to A Christmas Carol, but for Halloween. The writing is gorgeous, and it's this creepy, like the Grim Reaper kind of person takes like 8 boys on a trip throughout time, and they learn about where the traditions of Halloween come from. The next 2 that I have are The Justice of Kings and Winterlight. Both of these are fantasies. That is my theory, my only reason to pair them together. The Justice of Kings I've talked about before. You can find my video, I'll link it below. And this one was a 5 star. It was lovely. It is like a dark mystery fantasy. Winterlight, which is like the 8th book in the Green Rider series. I love Kristen Britton's writing. She has a way of capturing nature in a very lovely way. I devoured this book. I love all of the characters. I wanted to know what happens. This is just one of those series that is just, it's nestled and it's in my heart, and I loved every moment of it. It is the biggest book I read last year. It was like 800 pages, but I flew through it. Wonderful. The next 2 that I have are The Naturals and Sadie. Both of these I put together because they are thriller mysteries. I did listen to both of them on audiobook, so that was another thing. The Naturals is about a woman who gets, well, a young woman who gets recruited by the FBI, if I remember correctly. They've recruited a bunch of young kids who show these natural abilities to suss out specific things. So for her, she's a natural at reading people. She can basically like look at a person, kind of like a Sherlock Holmes, just look at a person and figure out where they fit in whatever little order. This was fun. I think it's a YA series. I'll be on the lookout for the second book. I really enjoyed this first one. The second one is Sadie. This one was recommended so many times for a podcast element audiobook, and it did not disappoint. It was just like listening to one of those true crime podcasts, and it did a very good job of going back and forth between Sadie, the main character, who goes missing, but we still follow her in the days leading up to her going missing, and the podcast journalist who is interviewing the people around her to try and find out what happened to her. This is a heartbreaking book, and it really kind of sticks with you. It's got one of those storylines that when you finish it, you sort of stare into space and wonder about a lot of things. The next two books that I have are The Sea in Summer and Greenwood. Both of these deal with humans and their relation to nature. Greenwood is about humans and their interaction with trees. Sea in Summer is about humans and what happens if the waters rise and the temperatures rise, but it's less about the weather and more about the people. I did a full review on my top 5 of 23 so far, and I, again, will link that below and you can find my full reviews there. Next two have longer names, so let's see if I can get them. The Last Heir of Blackwood Library and The Mystery of Black Hollow Lane. The first one, the Blackwood Library, is it's like historical but with a little bit of magical realism in it. It's this woman who ends up being told that she's this heir to this place called Blackwood, and she, I guess, is the only person who's alive, and so she ends up going there, becoming a lady. And there's a library that has weird feelings, and there's a lot of secret societies and some secret passages, and it's just a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed this one. The Secret of Black Hollow Lane also has secret societies and passages, and it was so much fun. This was my biggest surprise of the year. My niece recommended me this one. This is a middle grade book, and I adored it. I think I read it in 2 days. It was wonderful. The main character, she was just a delight to read from. I would highly recommend that one for if you want just like a fun mystery. And both of these gave me Nancy Drew vibes, so if you like the Nancy Drew, go into these two. And the last two that I'm going to talk about are Soul Boom and Present Over Perfect. Both of these I have put together. They are both nonfiction, but they are also nonfiction exploring spirituality and what it means in our lives. For this one specifically, Rainn Wilson, he's arguing that the reason why people are so burnt out and stressed is because they're lacking spirituality in their lives. And he goes into it. He defines what spirituality is. He defines religion versus spirituality. So it's more of an exploration of believing in something bigger and why we need to do that. Present Over Perfect was a teeny tiny little book, and it hit me way harder than I expected. It was about a mom who was burnt out, and she was trying to find joy and peace in her life again. And she did that through interviewing and talking to lots of people, reading lots of spiritual texts and incorporating them. It's about how she pulled herself out of that dark place and into the place where she wanted to be. So I've put these together because they are about pulling yourself out of the darkness and putting yourself back into peace and joy. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Karen. I'm the Book Librenaut. I love exploring all different types of books, and I love sharing all the books that I think are wonderful, and I would really hope that you would pick up at least one of these books. Thank you again. We'll see you again soon. Bye. The next two that I've paired together are The Naturals and Sadie. You'll have to excuse all the extra sound. My daughter is rearranging the kitchen right now.